At Gender Links, we endure to pursue our commitment to an inclusive, equal and just society in the public and private space in accordance with SADC Protocol on Gender and Development. Our endeavors in macro and micro activism for gender equality in alliance with our vision oftentimes take us to different stages of political representations where gender parity questions are raised. In 2018, we engaged in a nuanced analysis of gender representation in the 2018 Zimbabwe local government elections. By applying various devices of population research within the constitutional provisions, we analyzed several traits of gender distribution in the elections. These comprised, but were not limited to, women and men contesting local elections, gender analysis in election manifestos, and comparison of women's representation at local government. Before we give the full report, here are some of the quick facts worth noting. The representation of women in local government declined from 16% to 14% in the July 2018 elections in Zimbabwe. Chipinge Town Council is the only local authority which managed to reach the 50-50 parity objective. Biometric voting was used for the first time in Zimbabwe. The Zimbabwe 2018 election had the highest number of presidential candidates in the history of Zimbabwe. In a total of 23 presidential candidates, only 4 were women. The 2% drop in the representation of women in local governance helps uncover the need to extend the constitutional quota for women in parliament, a constitutional facility due to expire in 2023. From its slacktivism to its activism campaigns, the Women in Local Government Forum, WILGF, has fronted such constitutional petitions. Although the SADC Agenda 2030 on Gender Protocol envisions a 50-50 gender representation in all areas of decision-making, the Zimbabwean political landscape had not aligned fully to this vision. 2 electoral systems are applied in elections, which are the list system and the first past the post FPTP. In the latter system, the winner takes all. On a national level, a mixed system is applied, where 60 seats are reserved for women. On a local governance level, the FPTP system applies without any constitutional quota for women. ZANU-PF is the only political party that has applied a voluntary party quota system, with 30% of its parliamentary seats reserved for women. Thus, in its observation, the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission concluded that conditions are not yet conducive for the equal participation of women in politics and decision-making. Another observation is that there is a need to revisit the constitutional provisions before the next election, so as to allow for a fair allocation of seats for women. 2013 Constitutional Provisions encourages gender equality in all spheres of decision-making. A necessity is laid upon the state to apply corrective measures against gender imbalances. For the next 2 lives of the National Assembly, commencing in 2013, an additional 60 women shall be elected under a party list system of proportional representation based on votes cast for political party candidates. The state must ensure that all international conventions, treaties, and agreements to which Zimbabwe is a party are incorporated into domestic law. The political background in Zimbabwe hasn't favored women much. The texture of derogative talk that has been associated with political differences has affected women to a greater scale, toxic enough to threaten their political career. The fallout of Dr. Joyce Mujuru from the Robert Mugabe stable, Dr. Thokozani Kupe from the MDC stage, for example, was characterized by a media onslaught that attacked their person instead of the office they hold. Words like witch and prostitute have often been used as insults against women who brave the political stage. Amidst this political gale, women garnered only 17% representation in local governance, a harsh variance to the 83% attained by their male equals. Here are the proportion of men and women candidates by political party at local level. The participation of men was considerably higher than that of women across all parties. ZANU-PF and the MDC alliance contributed 4% each of the 17% of women contesting the 2018 local government elections, slightly over half of the women contesting. The People's Rainbow Coalition, PRC, fielded 2% with smaller parties accounting for the balance. The four main political parties, MDC Alliance, MDC-T, People's Rainbow Coalition, and ZANU-PF released their political manifestos to the public prior to the 2018 elections. In an attempt to implement gender parity, the MDC Alliance guaranteed 50-50 representation at all levels of government. ZANU-PF also pledged to ensure implementation of a 50-50 representation in key public and private institutions and encourage local authorities to set up quota for women in the allocation of residential, industrial, and commercial space. The MDC-T makes no mention of a quota system, but states that they will legislate and implement policies aimed at eradicating all forms of discrimination against women. Although the MDC Alliance and ZANU-PF's manifestos show a consciousness of the rights of women, children, and people with disabilities, none of these parties specify how this will be achieved, especially at a local level, or what will happen when the current clause at national level expires in the 2023 elections. Figure 2 compares the performance of Centers of Excellence, COE, for gender in local government and non-COE councils. The data in this table represents various local authorities, 65 COE councils and 24 non-COE councils where elections are held. The graph demonstrates a decrease in the representation of women. In 2013, women constituted 21% of the total in COE councils and 16% in non-COE councils, whilst in 2018 these numbers decreased to 14%. In the last 5 years, the COE program has broadened out to cover 2/3 of the country. However, gender sensitization is often insufficient to ensure women's political participation, especially at local level where patriarchal forces tend to be acutely felt. Following the 2018 elections, Bulawayo Province has the highest percentage of female councillors in the country at 28%, while Mashonaland, Central Province, a mere 6%. In a comparison of women's representation in the COE councils in 2013 and 2018, Chipinge Town Council is the only local authority that managed to achieve gender parity, from 25% to 50%. Of note are councils like Chinhoyi Municipality that had no female representation in the 2008 election but now have women councillors. Figure 4 places the local government election results in context, reflecting declines in all areas of political decision-making except in cabinet. The election witnessed a decline in women's representation in parliament from 34% to 31%. Zimbabwe Senate has the highest representation of women at 44%, but this too represented a drop of 4 percentage points. Cabinet is the only area of decision-making that witnessed an increase in the proportion of women's representation from 17% to 31%. This followed a meeting the president had with gender activists prior to the elections. From Gender Links, here are some of the key recommendations. 1. Extend extends Section 124 of the Constitution to include local government and maintain this temporary special measure for at least 3 more elections or until such time when there are reasonable prospects of gender parity being achieved through normal political party processes. 2. Lobby for permanent electoral reforms to a PR system that is more inclusive and conducive to women's participation. For example, Lesotho, national level, and South Africa, local level, have mixed systems that boost women's political chances. 3. Work with political parties to embed gender parity in all their policies and practices. In the long term, there is no shortcut to gender equality being normalized in political parties. Mauritius, local level, has shown that greater women's participation can be achieved even in the FPTP system. Annexure A below illustrates a representation of female councillors by province. Bulawayo Metropolitan Province has the highest representation of female councillors at 27.6%, followed by Matabeleland South at 19.3%, while Mashonaland Central Province has the lowest representation at only 6%. At Gender Links, it is our undivided belief that with SADC involved and governments cooperating, we will help women feature in the future of political and governance arenas.